All
Great.
right. Welcome to the Hot Drinks Podcast. I am thrilled to be joined with a long lost friend, Matt Deines. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm good. It's so good to see you, Sean, and thank you for having me on the podcast. My wife and I have been listening to all the
All
episodes, and
right.
we're really enjoying it. And it's bringing back a lot of memories for us, and hearing the news stories has been just really, really fun for us. And so, just want to say first off, congratulations, and
Cool.
this
Thanks.
is great to see, and connecting people, from
Mm,
alums to former instructors that, love the school. And so it's been really fun. So congratulations and
cool.
thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. So, for those folks that don't know, most you probably don't, Matt and I did our NOLS Instructor course together, which was we were just chatting with before we recorded here. Was a monumental experience for all involved, especially myself and Matt. And we reminisced about some stories from that. We don't need to dive too deep into that here today. We'll see what comes up, but yeah, I'm excited to have you on. It's great to see you again. It's great to connect. So yeah, we'd like to start off all the shows with hearing your favorite hot drink when you were back out in the field. I know you're not as in the field much these days, have a different desk job, but back in the day, what was your favorite hot drink?
My wife and I have been talking about this, and I noticed in the Kate Coons interview that I got her, hooked on coffee, which I didn't realize. And I immediately texted her and apologized. And then she said, no, this is a good thing. I'm glad that I like coffee. And I also did the same thing with my wife,
Oh
introduced her
no.
to coffee on a NOLS course, which she is still drinking, today. But my wife and I were talking about it, Jamie, and I don't know if it really is could be categorized as a hot drink. I guess it depends on how soupy you make it. But my favorite was always like after a really cold day on a glacier, getting into camp and making like ramen. So I don't know if that
Yeah,
really counts,
no.
but if we could say anything that was like the most rewarding thing to
Yeah.
have in your bowl at the end of a long day, it was the ramen, which we can't, I don't think most people can really enjoy the prepackaged ramen in the front country, but for some reason in the
Yeah.
back country, it really hits the spot, and it still does today. So,
Are you
yeah.
going with potato pearls or without potato pearls in your ramen?
We both do potato pearls and a little bit of, cheese.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll
But
get you in some
then,
warm
but then
protein.
we're right. We're kind of getting out of the hot drink and into
Right, right.
more
It's
of a
turned into
middle
it's turned into a full dinner now.
Yeah.
That's all right. A hot drink can turn into a dinner. That's okay. If you can chew your hot drink, even better.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into your first story. Let's learn about how you learned about NOLS. What's the story there?
Yeah, so I grew up in Western Nebraska, and I was in Boy Scouts, which is now Scouts, and my dad was our leader, and so he introduced me to outdoor adventure and going on backpacking trips. But when I was down, there's a scout camp in New Mexico called Philmont, and
I remember that.
I went down there on my own when I was 16 on a 3-week trek, and it was the trek is modeled after Outward Bound to a degree. So
Hmm.
it's like a 3-week trek, and it's supposed to challenge you in different ways, and which I really enjoyed at that age was any kind of challenge like hiking up mountains or climbing or whatever. And I remember, there were different crews. And I remember we were at a rock climbing area, and I overheard one of the instructors of this other group talking to, he was being asked, what's the hardest thing you've ever done?
Hmm.
And he said a NOLS semester. And so my ears kind of perked up, being kind of drawn to different challenges. And he said he had done a NOLS semester in Alaska, and from that day on, I knew that that's something that I wanted
Hmm.
to do. That person was Mark Thornberry, who is also, was a NOLS instructor and affiliated with NOLS for a long time. So that's how I came to know about
Wow.
NOLS. And then, yeah, after my undergraduate degree at University of Wyoming, I decided take the semester in Alaska, and I had amazing mentors, on my semester course, Erica Lorenzen, which I think is Lynn Gatcher now,
Mm.
and Andy Tyson. They all were very inspirational and encouraged me to work for NOLS. So the next year, was when we had our IC together.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty neat. Did you ever connect with that instructor from the scout camp that went on was working for NOLS?
That's a good question. I may have one time in Lander,
Yeah.
but that may have been it.
You didn't give him the letter. You changed my life.
But yeah, if he's listening, Mark, thank you. You set me on a path that I am forever grateful.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty neat. And then, yeah, when you were on your semester course, were you kind of in the back of your head thinking, wow, this would be a pretty cool job someday? Or wasn't that even like on your radar when you started?
No, from the very beginning, I kind of knew like, oh, this looks like something I fell in love with Alaska.
Mm.
I've always loved teaching. I had done a little bit through scouts. And so, yeah, it seemed like something I wanted to do. And so then, after RIC, I spent the next 12 years kind of on and off working for the school.
Yeah, amazing. It was that long, okay? And so at what point did you, because you did you work year round ever, or were you always had something else going on?
It was typically I would work in Alaska and then work out of Lander in the fall and springs. And and so there was always that time where I worked in a ski shop or, just
shoulder season.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's talk about, you mentioned your wife Jamie a couple times, and Jamie was and is a NOLS instructor as well, and I knew Jamie back in the day when I was working, and was probably around when you guys connected. Let's hear that story. Pranking leads to marriage. Let's hear this story. I've never heard this one, so I'm excited to find out. What led to your marriage anyway.
Yeah, well, so we've heard some great pranking stories already on the podcast. Yeah. Like I love the one with Trevor Dayton and Kate Coons and the bear fence. This is kind of similar in that vein of pranking, but it went maybe a little bit too far. And but some of the best pranks that I was a part of or heard about were the really simple ones. Like switching out the belt buckles off a backpack, or taking the belt buckle, so that all the backpack weight was on somebody's shoulder for a short period of time. Really simple, but
big rock in the pack.
Yeah. So this story was when we met. It was in Alaska, the Alaska Range in the Clearwater Mountains, so the Eastern Alaska Range, and it was a wilderness section of a semester. And we were, probably halfway through the course, and we decided to do student groups with instructors. So, or small groups with instructors.
Right. And did you know, sorry, just to back you up, did you know Jamie at all before you started this course working with her, or had you?
I think I may have met her briefly. We were trying to remember if we had over her IC, because I think I was helping in the issue room before.
Okay, but no significant connections before you showed up.
No significant connections. So, and we were working with Ricardo Davis. He was the proctor at the time. Yeah. But so on this just small group, we were just going to spend one night out, and we had to basically 2 different groups, and the route was basically you went up and over a pass, and then you descended down to this wide open Alaska river bar. And then from there you hiked up, like you had to kind of bushwhack up 1,000 feet to this plateau where, Ray Atkins is going to come in and re-ration us. And so Jamie's group was, it was Ricardo and I with a group, and then Jamie was with another group, and she was actually camped up on the pass for that night. And so my group was sitting around in the evening, and we decided, it'd be kind of a good prank would be to like go up and take their pot, that you like their large pot that everyone uses to boil water for coffee or whatever.
Right.
We're like, this is pretty low risk, this is, inconvenience for them, like they're going to have to use their fry pan to make cocoa or whatever in the morning, and then we'll give it back to them. So we go up and, for those that aren't familiar, in Alaska with the bear protocol, your kitchen is, far away from the tents, and what would typically happen would be you would have your stove, and then you would use the pot to cover the stove, and then you would put your food bags over that.
Yeah.
And so
for folks listening, far away, we mean kind of a couple hundred meters.
Yeah, exactly. So so we hike up in the evening after they had dinner, we assumed, and we sneak up, grab their pot, and go back.
Also, how are you sneaking up? Because like obviously Alaska in the summer, it's not dark.
We waited until they were all kind of in
tucked
their
away.
tents.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
So this big stealth mission.
Yeah, it was a nice evening hike for us.
Right.
And we were doing all bear protocols at the time.
Right.
There was at least 4 of us that went.
Yeah.
So, we get back, we think we're pretty funny. And so then the next morning we're hiking up to the pass, and I see these figures, and there's snow up on the pass, and I'm almost like expecting a snowball fight. But when we get up there, they're not around. We see them kind of walking off the pass down the other side. And as I'm walking, I see a 4-person tent, like Mountain Hardware, the big, heavy 4-person mountaineering tent. And it's flat with the poles, sitting to the side, staked into the ground. And then in one of the tent stakes, they had stabbed it in the ground like a note. And the note said, "Red, thank you for carrying our pot. If you don't mind, you could carry our tent as well. That would be a big help." So,
what?
Yeah, so I'm like, oh, I have been had by this very beautiful, intelligent, funny woman. And so I grab the tent and I start running towards them. I'm like, Jamie, you forgot your tent. You forgot your tent. And I try to set it down for her to come back. They're just laughing, and they are en route to our final destination. So then I go back, pick up the tent, repack it. And so then, my hiking group the whole time was like, well, how can we get back at them? And I'm like, I don't
war now.
I don't know if we should. There's a lot of trepidation. I'm the course leader, and
things can get out of hand pretty quick when
things can get out of hand. Yeah. So we get down to the river bar, and the decision by our group is to not carry their tent up that 1,000 feet of bushwhack, but leave their tent down on the river bar. And so we kind of laid it out just as they had it in the past. The idea is that, we'll get up there and say, we brought your pot, but here are the coordinates of your tent. So we get up there, and they had been, trying to make peace, like already kind of like, hey, you guys carried our tent. That was really nice. Let's end this. One group was making, brownies, which, is like a offer of like a peace offering, which is a big deal, scrambled brownies.
No one shares brownies.
Yeah, like that's a huge gesture, right? So we start unloading our packs, and we give them the pot, and then they say, well, where's our tent? Because everyone's kind of setting up at this point, like, well, one of the students says, well, the tent is down there, and they're just like, are you kidding me? And I can kind of sense the mutiny is about ready to happen, right? And so the group that is making brownies for everyone has now decided that that's not happening. They're going to eat them all, things are going south. And so the only solution that we came up with on the fly was, okay, I will go back down with one student from my team. Jamie will go down with a student from her group. We'll pick up the tent and come back. And so, yeah, that was a prank, a set of pranks that probably went a little bit too far. But it ended up, like with this, the meeting of Jamie,
Yeah.
and kind of going down this path of eventual marriage and having kids. So I'm grateful that she has a great sense of humor and that we were, able to meet in that fashion in Alaska.
Yeah. So was that a truce? Was that it after that?
That was the truce. Yeah, that was that kind of ended it. Yeah.
Wow. And
Yeah.
over the years in your marriage, have you guys continued pranking, or has that dimmered down since you realized that you don't need to do that anymore to court her?
Yeah, that's pretty much died down. I don't think I'm funny anymore. Like that's gone.
You're speaking
The
for your kids now. Come on.
the dad jokes have got to end. I usually get kind of a look like, really,
It's been 12 years of this.
yeah, but we're no, we don't prank anymore, but we do still love to go on adventures, and that was a commitment, that we made on our wedding day, was that we were going to have a life filled with adventure. And
Mm,
so, yeah, and as bringing in children into the world and having them as your new expedition mates has
mm,
been really fun too.
yeah.
So yeah.
Those kids don't know how good they have it when they go on trips now. That you guys are so dialed as a couple that are you can speak the same language. And
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, we
are the
have to
kids into
kind of,
camping? Do they enjoy it?
yeah, they love camping. They're both very adventurous. We've taken them on some trips where, we've had to like do scrambling and had some
Mm,
long days, and they've, risen to the occasion, and they have that sense of wonder. We were just in the Utah over spring break and
nice.
exploring canyons and going skiing, and they love to explore. And yeah, and they both talked about, they've heard so many of our NOLS stories. I think
Mm,
they're both, interested in doing it someday. And I hope for that for them, because it's, I think NOLS is such a great organization that, yeah, teaches us so many different valuable lessons, so yeah.
absolutely. Right
Yep.
on. Cool. Well, that's great. It's good to hear your marriage origin story. How
I
long
don't know
was
if
it
that's
after?
the,
How
I don't
long
know if
after
that's
that?
the first love story that you've
Yeah,
gotten.
I think it might be the first love story. How long after that did you get married?
2 years.
Wow. There you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, let's before we get to this next story, I wanted before we were chatting before we were record, and you started telling me the story of your first day of your first NOLS course, and I had to cut you off because it sounded like a great story. So um, we were reminiscing about our first days, and so yeah, let's hear that story from the start of your first day on your first NOLS course as an instructor. For those folks that don't know, like it's quite a build up between by the time you get to your first NOLS course. This wasn't your first NOLS course, right? This was
No, it
your
was
first time course leading.
no, it was
No.
I think it was my third course. I don't remember,
All
but
right.
it was just a course in the winds in
All
the
right.
fall.
Oh, okay. Well,
Was it?
all right.
Yeah.
Scrap that.
No,
Well,
but we were talking about, the awkwardness of getting off the bus with a large group,
right.
and, getting to the X, and it may be a long day.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was a course, where uh, in the winds, one of my first times in the winds with Chris Brown Eyes, who's now the director of the NOLS Alaska branch, and then a Kenyan by the name of Joshua Namasie. And yeah, the first day, Joshua had been in this area before. He had worked in that area in the summer, and he said, "Well, I will just go ahead and lead the entire group, to our first X." And so, we're all one big group, and he's out front, and Chris and I are in the back. And I noticed that Joshua is not carrying a map, but I kind of think, well, he knows where he's been. He's got like he's grown up, like in the Maasai area, so he's scanning the horizon. He knows the
Got some
land.
special spider senses.
Yeah, yeah. But nevertheless, like, we're hiking for maybe an hour, and then he comes back to Chris and I, he's like, "I don't know where we are." And so the map reading really began then. And
Wow.
we had to recover from that point. But it was a good lesson in like, okay, we should probably be double checking everyone's work on the map
Yeah,
instead
absolutely.
of just yeah.
It's funny off the first day, and the winds can be tricky sometimes because there's trails and there's like signs at places, and we're not used to that, especially if you're used to hiking in Alaska. And all of a sudden,
Yeah.
you're like, "Whoa, there's a trail. Let's just go on that." And then all of a sudden, it's like, "Well, this isn't." And you put your head down and go. And then all of a sudden, you look up and you're not like, "Whoa, that's not where we were." But in Alaska, you've got your map in your hand most of the time because it's you can hardly see if you're in bushwhacking or you're always trying to check where you are.
Yeah.
That reminded me of a course in the Yukon, and sometimes like that first day off the bus is the most challenging navigation because you're just like, oh, we're just getting into it, and I think I know where we dropped off. Especially in the Yukon, it's like a lot of times it's like on the side of a highway. It's like, yeah, this is where you told me you wanted to be dropped off. The driver says, and so we get out and we're kind of in a gravel pit, and there's a couple different dirt roads going a couple different directions, and I'm like, I'm not sure where we are, like. And my coach, we all huddle around. We're like, do we go this way or that way? Like, I'm not really sure exactly where we are on the map because we're in the thick of willows and you can't see. We're on a dirt road, and we thought we were in the right place. And then that was at the time when like GPS was always becoming more popular, and it was an adult group. It was an over 25 course, and the one guy had brought his own GPS. And we were kind of discouraging him to bring it, but I think he just bought it for the trip. We're like, all right, you can bring it along. And so we're like, we're not out of the bus like 20 minutes, and I waltz over to him. I'm like, did you bring the GPS? It's like, can I take a look at that? See if it's working? So we had to use the student's GPS to figure out where we were on the first day out of the bus.
Yeah.
And once we locked in, we're like, all right, okay, here we go. We carried on and we were fine. But yeah, that was funny. It was kind of embarrassing asking to use his GPS.
The drop off was always the most challenging for sure.
Yeah, and all the eyes are on you, of course. Everybody's like, all right, I'm scared to death. All the students are like, I don't know where I am, what I'm doing. I guess instructors know everything.
Yeah. We talk about our feet a little bit more while I figure out where we're at.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's do that blister talk once more.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the last story. Your best and worst day at NOLS, and that doesn't involve the prank with your future wife. Wow.
No, but Jamie was on this course with me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
you managed to work a few courses together after you guys.
Yeah, we got really kind of lucky, and I don't know if the staffing office kind of helped us, but we were able to work 2 more courses after that one in Alaska. We worked in Wyoming and then in Utah together.
Nice.
Yeah. And then we were ski bums for the winter up in Victor and Driggs area.
Right. Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, this was in 2005, and we were working what's known at the time in Alaska semesters as the mega section, which was like a 50-day combo of mountaineering and hiking. And so yeah, this is a story of as you've mentioned in the podcast before, these NOLS courses that we're on in these experiences, you can experience some of the highest of the highs and lowest of the lows, and mine was in a span of a day.
Wow.
We had just spent like maybe 3.5, 4 weeks on the glacier, learning glacier travel and trying to summit peaks, and we had to go up and over a pass and then down into the tundra to kind of start our final portion of the cement, that hike, which was hiking out to the Denali Highway, to the west. And so we're in a glacial environment, and we have to go through this pass, but it's one of those days, in Alaska where you just can't see anything. It's just socked in, and
right.
And so we are, traveling as rope teams, with, one person out in front looking for crevasses. And so we take a bearing and we head up to the pass. And I, as the course leader, volunteer to be out in in front, and so I'm walking, and it's like, the saying, like you're in like a inside a ping pong ball, where
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what I was just thinking.
there's no definition anywhere, and you're trying to kind of see different subtle changes in the snow for, evidence of crevasses. And so we had to wind through and up this really challenging terrain, where no one can see, and everyone's kind of waiting for that person up front to, get up to the top and get through. It's slow travel.
Right.
But we get up to the pass, and the only way I know that we're at the pass is I could feel the wind shift on my face.
Wow.
It was my finest, like, John Muir moment, like,
Right.
I have navigated us through this challenging terrain, and we've reached the pass. And so, we get down off the pass, and we're,
Are you off the ice now once you get to the pass?
Well, no, not quite. So we have to descend, and then we're basically like in tundra,
Okay.
a short distance away. And so, once you've spent like 4 weeks on a glacier, it's, and you're moving into tundra, you're back into kind of bear protocols.
Right.
Everyone is excited to take off their Gore-Tex or their guide pants and put on, shorts and a t-shirt.
Right.
And so the students had hiked ahead, so they're preparing for small group travel without instructors. And so we're letting them go ahead to kind of find a campsite and do all of, kind of show us that they're ready to travel in bear terrain.
Right.
And so the instructor, Jamie, and the other instructor, Mike Spade, and I are sitting there just enjoying being on the tundra, seeing green for the first time.
Right. Taking in the smells.
Taking in the smells. We're right by this beautiful glacial river, and we go to pack up and start hiking to the X. And as I'm putting on my backpack, I had put my bear spray in the side. And at the time, that's where you stored it, is in the side of your backpack. And then there'd be like a little leash, like P-cord, to it. Now I think everyone wears a harness, with the bear spray. But at the time, that's what we did. And as I go to put my backpack on, the bear spray canister must have come out.
Oh no.
And then I hear it discharge, like the, and I'm like, that's not good. And then I'm starting to look, and I look down, I notice that there's basically like orange, it looks like orange paint on the inside of my leg. And I'm wearing shorts, right? So, and that travels. And so the pain was pretty immediate, but I realized, okay, I just maced myself basically with bear
So what was the pain? Was it like, obviously it's not in your face or your eyes, but
luckily it didn't hit my face or eyes, but it's just burning, right? And so we're by a glacial river. So this is my so I went from being John Muir to now I have just sprayed myself with bear spray. And so we're next to a glacial river. So I'm like, I'm just gonna go stand in this river, so I'm kind of like kneeling in this river. It feels great, and then I'm in shorts, but I'm getting cold. So I have this intense burning in my on my thigh, but I'm starting to shiver. And so I get a warm coat, puffy, warm hat. And so I'm sitting there, and Jamie will always remind me, like, she looked over and I'm in tears because the pain is so bad. So Mike is, now it's a first aid situation a little bit. So they're, at least comforting me, like they started a fire so I would
trying not to laugh.
I would come out when I was hypothermic, and dry myself, and then I'd go back in, and this went on for maybe an hour and a half. And then, we hiked to the X, and, of course, at this time, my backpack has spray on. So for the rest of the trip, I'd be hiking, and anytime I would sweat, which was every day, you could feel the the bear spray contents, on your back
Uh,
or wherever. So it was pretty, it's pretty
oh
miserable.
man.
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrible. That reminds me, I had a student on an Alaska course. I think it might have been the first or second day. It might have been even the first night out. And we hiked, got dropped off early in the morning and hiked all day and got to camp and everybody's just setting up. And I guess his bear spray must have went off a little bit. It wouldn't have been a lot because I didn't know it went off. And I think it went off on his insulite or his thermarest, his camp mattress. And so unbeknownst to us, he'd brought it down to the river and had a spoon out and he's trying to scrape it off. And he's trying to get rid of it and
Yeah.
comes back to camp and he's setting up camp and we're starting to cook dinner. We're teaching him stoves and food and all that stuff you do on the first night. And he comes over to me and he's like, I was like, what are you doing? What's going on? And he just seemed in awful distress. And he's like, bear spray on the spoon.
Yeah.
He
Oh,
forgot to
no.
clean the spoon.
Oh,
So he starts
no.
eating his dinner, whether it's mac and cheese or what, but he's eating bear spray.
Oh no, that's awful.
Oh man, that was a quirky kid that set him up well for that trip. But yeah, I'll never forget that. He's trying to scrape it off, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now, when people ask, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the worst pain you've ever felt?
Right.
I've been very fortunate that that's the worst pain I've ever felt, but it's my 10.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
That's your go-to.
Yeah.
Crazy. Wow. That's awesome. I appreciate those stories. That's great. Well, before we end off here, I want to hit you up with our rapid fire questions.
All right.
Just, your quick thought, first word that comes, first sentence that comes to mind. What's your favorite location to lead trips?
Oh, I have to say, Alaska. Yeah.
Any particular reason other than that's where you were?
I think just the
First
wide
introduced.
open,
Yeah.
the wide open spaces. I loved going up there every summer. The canyons would be a close second. I loved spending time on those courses.
Awesome. Favorite piece of gear? Is there something that took you on many years or something that you used on most trips or?
Yeah, Jamie and I were discussing this. I initially said camp shoes because nothing is better than, taking off those wet boots and putting on Crocs or whatever, Sanooks.
Yep.
And but she reminded me that probably my favorite is my fly rod. So, which was I'd only carry it, on Wyoming courses, but I love being able to do that on trips, and teach that.
Nice. Yeah, camp shoes were definitely a highlight for me. I never thought of that, but it was definitely a highlight of the day. Did you have your go-to camp shoes, or like the ones that you lasted or that you loved, or is it just whatever Crocs you could find?
Yeah, it's kind of shifted over the years. In Alaska, obviously, you would carry tennis shoes, with some sort of like overboot, for rain.
Oh, right, the galoshes.
The galoshes.
Wow, I forgot about those.
And they had the fancy Neos ones. I don't know if you remember those. And then, and then when I started working in lightweight backpacking courses, you're just wearing tennis shoes. It wasn't as big of a deal, but I think I still would carry flip flops, just so my feet could air out. And now it's Sanooks, which is just really luxurious. I wear tennis shoes, and if I'm still like on a lightweight trip, I'll carry those just to change into at the end of a long day.
Nice. Yeah, I remember for a long time I had the old man Velcros from Walmart.
Yes, those were popular, weren't they?
They were classic. Yeah. I'd get one or two courses out of them.
I think I did the same thing. Yeah, that must have been.
Yeah, we probably sold out the Palmer, Alaska Velcros at Walmart.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Right on. Awesome. Yeah, good memories of camp shoes. I hadn't thought about them in a while. All right. If what image comes to mind when you hear the word adventure?
What, one word or?
Yeah, word or just like a picture in your mind. If someone says, "I want to go on an adventure," what?
Oh, now I see my family, in the canyons, or doing, future like multi-day backpacking trips in the Sierras. yeah. And then just like daily adventure, like
Mm,
weekend adventures with them as well, even if it's just for the day. So
yeah.
yeah, my sense of adventure has certainly changed from like the long expedition to really enjoying sharing those experiences and seeing new places with my wife and daughters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm sure you feel the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Your sense of adventure changes for sure when you have kids, and you find adventure in the smallest, minutest things now. And
Yeah.
yeah, we were just down at the ocean the other day, and there I was just, hanging out with the rocks and talking a bit about the kelp or something like that. And then I turn around and they've got like a stack of rocks, and every rock has a name. And they have a
Oh,
family,
yeah.
and they're like treating all these rocks like dolls. And then they've played for an hour. I was
Yeah.
like, all right, let's go with
Yeah.
it.
And my wife is really good at kind of inspiring the family just to step outside, like especially during
Mm,
the pandemic. Like once we get somewhere, then it kind of can snowball in different directions and be
absolutely.
adventurous in different ways. So yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, last question. If you could go back to any one location and share a hot drink in the field, where would it be and why?
Oh, it would have to be in Alaska in the tundra.
Yeah.
Just waking up in the morning and brewing coffee and kind of looking out over the wide vastness of Alaska. I appreciate, living in Southern California, I appreciate those
Mm,
areas or those spaces on the planet, more than ever now, just wide open space. And yeah, being able to do that would be, I look forward to that day.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Awesome. Well, man, this has been great. I really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Sean.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Well, I look forward to getting down there. Maybe I'll have to get Jamie on and hear the